All right. I don't even have sound on. Hey, everybody, listen. It's been a while. Smashing the Party's back, believe it or not. I know I'm not coming in with the exuberance that maybe I had last time I was on, but I'm going to kind of do this a little different this time. So, welcome. If this is your first time, it's probably because it's been like 3 years since I got on live. And there's a reason why it took me so long to get back on, but I'll get into that. And I will talk today. I'm just going to kind of keep it real, get the wheels moving, and give a little bit of history about Smashing the Party, just real brief, not to bore the shit out of you. And then I'm going to get into the topic of the day. If you don't know the format that I used to do, by the way, what this is really, if you're just like, what the hell's Nate doing? This started out with years ago, like 2009. I was just angry at politics. And so I went and registered the domain smashingtheparty.com, which I no longer own. That's a whole freaking story. But so I did nothing with it. Trump came along. I kind of got mad. I had nothing to do with myself. And I just started yelling and screaming online. And at one point, Smashing the Party had a monthly reach of about 120,000 people. So, you know, it's not like I was some YouTube person or something like that, but it was more, I was doing it for my own sake, quite frankly, just to vent, because it was a little chaotic believing that we elected a malignant narcissist as the fucking head of the country. So it just took me like 4 years waking up every day saying, is this real? And this was like a good outlet. And so there was a lot of rage. I went back and looked at my videos. Man, I'm angry. I admit it. I'm still angry about things, but I don't know if I want to come out with that tone. It's definitely, look, the interesting thing about when I was doing Smashing the Party earlier is, you know, I'd go out in town and see people, and most of the people that really enjoyed Smashing the Party were conservatives, believe it or not, and libertarians and people that wanted to like just kind of understand the other side. So it was kind of interesting to go out and see people that I didn't realize watched me and say, hey, look, man, when are you going to do your show or whatever? No, I'm not saying everybody did that was conservative, but it just kind of took me back. And so, you know, that delay of getting back on, a lot of things happened. It kind of made me think like, all right, who was I serving when I was doing it? And so I kind of want to come at it from a different perspective this time. And obviously last time it was for me, my therapy, as I said before. And, you know, but one of the things that I did enjoy from time to time in the past was just like dropping little tidbits of education. I'm not a teacher, but I like to, you know, I like to kind of explore things. And so that was another thing that people picked up on that I found really interesting, was that they appreciated the little things that I talked about with politics, because, you know, as you're working in this country, you know, you're working your 40-hour week, you're taking care of your family, your kids, whatever you got going on. It's hard as fuck to just pay attention to politics. And quite frankly, when Trump was elected, when he was in office, to much, you know, it's not necessarily a good thing, but he did shine the light on politics because he was always blasting. He had to be the loudest person in the room. So I think what I found is during this break was you kind of just get have this glaze over you about politics, because you know, both sides shit, they're all shady. And so, you know, when I took the break, I kind of stepped back and I kind of was doing the thing, worked for a couple different companies, did some consulting on my own, and kind of discovered that it's very easy just to ignore politics completely, because you're trying to work out, you know, that saving for the kitchen or saving for my kids' recital or whatever it is you're doing. You're just worried about the next thing, bills that are coming in, taxes, whatever it is. So you're not necessarily thinking about, okay, let's really dig into policy or what the fuck's going on. You care about the shit that you care about. Maybe you voted on. And that's another thing I want to talk about, is like, how do we actually change things? You know, we say things are the same, and I was angry and yelling and screaming, but how do you actually get people to say, all right, fuck, this shit's the same. It's the same. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, I do swear. I don't try to. I've actually tried to cut that back, and I'm going to try to be less expletive, if you will. I'm going to try to use less expletives. But I do just, when I emote, it just comes out, and I'm not going to shy away from it, but I am going to try to be more rational. Look, I got a lot of people that gave me some criticism. Some of it was super fucking painful, and some of it was like ego boosting, and some of it was really ego tearing down. So the things that I want to do moving forward, I want to take that spice and that kind of passion, but funnel it into something a little bit more constructive, and not just something where people are like, oh, you're like angry Alex Jones, which, look, Alex Jones did well, but I don't want to be like, he's a conspiracy theorist nut job. And so that was not a good kind of parallel. But I think the parallel that people were going for was that I just you could see the pure rage, and I think I might have cried a couple times on camera. So whatever. And that's the other thing too that took me a while to get back on, was the vulnerability that putting yourself out on a platform like this. You got your parents, you got your family, you got everybody watching you, and I'm definitely touching on topics that, look, I'm not shying away from things that aren't going to piss people off, even people that love me. So that's also a process that it took me a while to kind of like 4 years to fucking say, all right, you know what? I don't want to come at it from a negative perspective, but I want to say what the fuck I want to say. And I mean, I've been stifled so many times in my life that even this delay, and as I talk about the story about why I delayed, there was reasons for why I was stifled, and I still felt like my voice was crushed a little bit. And I'm not looking to make this a platform I beat people up personally. That's another thing I wanted to step in and talk about, was that I don't even hate Donald Trump as a person. I mean, he's close, he's border. I mean, I've said this to people that know me. Like, he's the type of person that if he wasn't in politics and I was in my crazy heyday, that would be the guy, like, let's go to Donald's house and party up, because there's no limits, and he's just going to do whatever. So and so there's no discipline there, and that would be attractive if that's the type of lifestyle you're living. But as somebody for a president, it's a little difficult to swallow. So I don't know where I was going. By the way, that's another thing I'll do all the time, is I'll skip things. But my larger point was that, I don't want to focus this on the like individual attacks, even of politicians. Look, I've actually come at Lloyd Smucker online for his disenfranchisement of our vote. While he was able to win, he was able to go to Washington and say, oh no, there's some problems with the election. That boggled my mind. So, but I like Lloyd. I mean, I've worked with Lloyd when I started in state government, working for local congressmen. I worked with Lloyd. He was new, and I think we kind of were like, oh, wow, what's going on here? We kind of had deer in headlights, and I felt like he had that same thing. So there was a little bit of bond there. I've all respect for him as a person. Hate his freaking policy stance, hate his position on Donald Trump. And so I want to make sure that as I go forward, I'm not just making this personal, because I can tend to use language that people will take as personal. And I'm not looking to attack people as much as ideas and systems. The fucking people are going to change. People are going to live. They're going to pass. They're going to, the parties are going to kind of have a pendulum swing. That's not really even my concern, which is why Smashing the Party was trying to be more neutral. People are going to see me as liberal because most of the policies that I believe in have data to back them, and that tends to be on the side that favors education. So I'm not going to go in there. Again, that's not a subtle jab at Republicans. Perhaps it is, but the larger point is that I'm going to make this much more of a opportunity for myself to explore different ideas with other people as well, not just do rants, and also just to lay down some of the things I feel strongly about. And I have a unique experience that I can bring to the table. Look, I'm African American. People are going to go, really? You are? Whatever. I can pass as Mid-Eastern, whatever. I'm exotic, whatever you want to call it. I have an experience that a lot of people don't have. I'm adopted. I have this, kind of interesting background. And so I'm not saying that makes me somebody that people need to stop what they're fucking doing and listen to, but I think that there's also the background that I have that kind of makes it relatable, which is that, I have personal struggles as well. I also went through some bullshit. I also had to, I also deal with the racial component, also coming from a family that doesn't necessarily, has some local prestige, which kind of puts you in this place of like, well, you're always treated a certain way. So there's this whole dynamic which I want to talk about, and I want to do it humbly as well as make sure that I'm expressing where my perspective is. And I think my hope is that a lot of people can relate. One other thing I'll comment on the relatability thing is that while I'm not sure I can angle in on the reason why conservatives kind of liked it, and I'm serious, like they would say, "Hey, I watch your show," and they'd argue with me, but I think there was a lot of folks that look at me, and I found that there were a lot of people that looked at me and they looked at themselves and they saw themselves in me. So, for instance, they're adopted, or they're biracial, or they talk like a white guy, and they live in the city and they have to deal with that, like, whatever it is, or they're the only black person in the corporate room, which was my, when I was in consulting and when I'm in a lot of tech world, with the exception of the last place, that was something that people could relate to. Was like, all right, I know what it's like to kind of be a sore thumb. Even if you're somebody that's not black, let's say you're trans, let's say you're gay, or you're lesbian, or whatever you are, maybe you can relate just to that kind of sore thumb, or that kind of, that person that kind of stands out as being looked at different, or maybe that's your perspective. And that was interesting, where there was a whole demographic of people that related to what I was doing. So I want to keep that vibe. I want to keep the relatability vibe as much as, now there's fucking people that hate me. I mean, loathe me. There's people that are in my family that don't watch this, that loathe it probably. There's people that have come to me and said, you're bullshit. There's people, I'm really quick on the block trigger. I'll be honest with you. I'm quick on the comment delete. If somebody's going to come and try to harass, I have keyword things that don't allow people to post things like murdering babies. So, you can try it. I don't know if it still works because it's been a while since I updated the settings. But the point is that I don't want to have this be a place where, I'm creating vitriol and then people are just feeling comfortable to do that. And so I try to at least monitor the content. Now, is that censorship? Of course it fucking is. I'm not going to just allow some bullshit statement on the page to exist. For instance, perfect example, today, I play Magic the Gathering. It's basically it's an awesome game. It's crack cocaine, though. It's cardboard crack. It's addicting, and the cards are expensive, and it's stupid. So don't get into it, but it's awesome. And I posted this I rarely post, but I'm creating this side deck thing where I wanted to post something. So I posted this group. Facebook's good for groups, and it was an innocent thing. Look, I said, throw me some ideas. Here's the card. I want to build this deck around blah blah blah. And so everyone was fine, but then there was this one guy who actually uniquely trolled me, and it pissed me off because he told me half truth, and then he said, but it depends on if it has this other attribute. What he did by saying that is it made everybody have to stop what they're doing and check what's called the errata and all this stuff. And he had this whole thread going on, and it was just a distraction. And I thought about it. I'm like, this is a great troll. He kind of took over the thread. He's talking about something. He's taking over, and I got annoyed. I blocked him. What does that mean? He didn't do anything to me, but for my post that I posted, I wanted certain information, and he was totally taken off with it. So I was like, you know what, you're gone. And I'm pretty keen on that in social media. I have friends that I block. I have friends that I'm friends with that I know that I block. I shake hands and go to comedy places with people that I'm not friends with on social media because they fucking know they get under my skin. And so I think, as somebody who there's the old mantra, you shouldn't read the comments. It's true as hell because people can needle you in different ways, especially when you're emoting and you're being vulnerable. Vulnerable. Oh, that scared me. So the point, the larger point of all that is that I need to be able to create an environment where I can actually educate. I can actually attract the people that I want to attract. The goal being to really get to the bottom of things and talk. Look, everyone's doing it. Jon Stewart, he's the man. He got rehired. Colbert. I'm not trying to even think of myself in that class. But what I love about those folks is they come at it from a perspective that's funny. They're not just spouting nonsense, and I think they check their ego at the door a lot, and I think that's what I'd like to do. I also, obviously Trevor Noah's interesting as well. But I think if you're going to find out who I really would love to be, it would be literally the whatever version that I could be with the same capabilities as Rush Limbaugh. The man was a master at just getting on the mic and capturing people's attention for 3 hours in the afternoon every day. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I really do prefer the long form. One of the things I'm struggling with too is I have to put this shit on TikTok, slice it up, do all this stuff. I like to talk about things. I like to go into it. And I think that sometimes people have the ability to kind of take somebody on a ride and navigate them, and people listen. And so I want to continue to do that. And I love doing that. When I was in my prime here, I'll call it my prime of Smashing the Party, there were times where I'd get on 5-10 minutes before because I was doing stuff, and I would pick a topic and I could go on and on and on about it. And some of those were some of my best shows. So I think that's the skill set I'm also trying to bring, is that I enjoy telling stories. I enjoy kind of real-time processing of things. And so that's what I want to try to bring to the table as well. How am I doing on time? Not bad. Wow. 15 minutes. Okay, cool. So I wanted to, I have some notes here. I do notes, and I do research and shit like that. And I try not to say things that are wrong. I state my opinions, and my opinions rarely are wrong because they're based on facts. And this is another thing that you're probably going to find. You're going to think I'm cocky and obnoxious, but it's the basically it comes down to I can be proven wrong on any time at any point. I just want to see the data. That's it. I just want to see the data with anything. And so I'll stand on my I told you so mountain. That's another one I coined back in the day. I'll stand on I told you so mountain until I'm taken off it by data. And it has to be pure data. It has to be raw proof in the pudding, or some theoretical basis on some factual, not hypothetical, made up, fear-based kind of injection of information. And that's probably my biggest thing that I try to avoid, is that I don't want to be the instigator of misinformation. The Russian thing, people are going to call me out and say, well, what about the Russian? Look, read the damn thing and you'll see that wasn't conspiracy. I wrote that thing. I read it. Elizabeth Warren got my vote because of that, because she read it and she immediately said, this is absolutely insane. So I think I've been consistent. Of course, I'm going to be talking every day. By the way, I scheduled it Monday through Thursday. It's on the calendar. I'm actually doing this out of the Candy Factory today. Wasn't able. I got lights. I got cameras. I got everything set up, and I ran into a hitch right before it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let that prevent me from doing it. So this will also get cooler and better, and I will have more than just a logo at the bottom. I had all these things set up to do this, to make it actually cool. So you don't give a shit. You're just like, whatever, dude. All right. But this is to make this long, and actually what I consider this, why I'm kind of happy to get back into it, is that I think of it as my art. This is like my art. I can't draw. I can't, I am actually kind of interestingly, oddly, weirdly musical in a way of, I didn't know until later in my life, but it sounds so No, I can't draw. I'm not artistic. I don't think spatially, even though I should be able to with what I do in my career. I'm not very good at it. And so I have a huge admiration for people that do art. And I was thinking, this is like my art. This is my thing. I have no kids. This is my legacy. This is like where I can express myself. And the reason I'm putting it under art is because it allows me to have the freedom to say what the fuck I want. And then I can say, look, it's art. This is art. And it sounds like an excuse, but the truth is, what is art? It's an expression. Sometimes it's an abstract expression or a real expression or somebody's interpretation of something in their mind or something they've seen or something observed or felt. And then they articulate it into something, whether it's tangible or something else. And somebody else observes that and says whether it's art or not. It could be shit to other people too. But for me, this is my art, and I want to get back into my art. And my art is long form bullshitting, talking, processing things, and then kind of telling a story. So that's what Smashing the Party is about. I think the future will also include other people. I don't want to just be here ranting. And so, in order to grow this to the where kind of surpassing where I was, you need to kind of roll into the other platforms and do YouTube videos and that kind of thing. I'm not even worried about any of that. I'm going to take it slow. I can't do live stream on YouTube because I don't have enough followers. So that's going to be a thing you're going to be hearing me say. Follow my YouTube. I need to get to 1,000. And so, there's a lot of things that will allow me to expand this and reach out a larger crowd to keep it going. But in the meantime, it's fun. I enjoy it. It doesn't cost me a lot to do it. And, other than time. So that's why we're back on the scene. Obviously, there's an important election coming up, so it makes sense. I've been accused of riding the coattails of Donald Trump's bullshit, and I'm not going to lie. It was easy to get hits on views when you're talking about Donald Trump. It's so easy. So it is timely that he's coming back. It's just I can't fathom the day where he takes office again, knowing what we know about him, knowing what people say about him. I can go on and on. But his fan club is fierce. They will go down with the ship, apparently. And hopefully maybe we can get some people to actually think and reconsider about his presidency, maybe through this. Even I can change one or two people. Even if I can piss somebody off to say, you know what, you're right, Nate. I don't like either of them. Stay home. I mean, that's horrible, but at least you're not giving a vote for Donald Trump. Don't stay home. Vote for, even if you're voting for Donald Trump, it's good to exercise your vote. So ignore me. Do not stay home. Vote. I do not want, I'd rather have people vote and me lose than and have proper representation of the populace. Believe it or not. It sounds crazy, but I don't want to like tilt the scales in one direction or the other. And I think that's another problem we'll talk about. All right. So I talked about, I try to stay with 3 points because I'm all over the place usually. I talked about my motivation. I kind of gave you a little history, bored you with that shit. Then, I talked about style. This is a rant kind of session for me, a thinking session. I do plan on doing interviews. There's some interviews that I had in the past. I did a trans person that I'm familiar with and friends with. That is a good interview. I actually interviewed a person that on healthcare in Japan. So there's some things that I did in the past that I can do again that I can really take further than I did before because, I know a little bit more now, and I also feel that I have less to care about. I didn't have fucks to give back then, but I don't really need people to care enough. I just want to reach more people, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, I just want to be loud about it. And if people don't like it, that's fine. It just is. If it's the truth, it's fantastic to stand on the truth, even if everyone else is wrong. I don't give a shit. I'll be the only guy standing on truth, and the world can burn me. I don't give a shit. It's just so much better. And I'll talk about that. By the way, I'll share some stories that kind of cements that philosophy for me. None of this is an act. None of it's scripted. At least this show isn't today. And most of the time it's not. It's literally me just coming out of my brain and saying things. And so there's going to be some folks that are not going to like it. And there's definitely going to be times where I'm going to say things that people don't like. So I'm going to get right into two things real quick. I want to talk about the two topics I'm going to talk about. Just touch on Trump real quick, and then I want to talk about realtors because there's some folks out there that think I hate realtors, and I want to set the record straight on my true feelings for realtors and why that's important. Why do you care? Why are you talking about realtors, Nate? Well, there's a big settlement that happened that's important for anybody that wants to buy a house in America, and so it's ruffled some feathers, if you will. And I want to talk about that. I have some experience. By the way, I worked in the business. I'm not just talking to my ass. I was a mortgage broker who set up departments and trained people on sales and trained people how to do mortgage, trained people how to write contracts, all that stuff. Helped people do the entire transaction. So I'm not speaking from my ass here. And that's, I think, the thing that bothers people. And so I want to, again, not make anyone feel personally attacked. I'm going to touch on the realtor thing. Let's do one, though, and I'm going to try to stay away from the personal attacks. The Bible thing with Trump. I mean, look, you'll find that I grew up very religious, conservative religious, evangelical, nothing wrong with it. I am pro, you believe what you want to believe and live it to the fullest. Make sure you're not harming anybody. It's the golden rule for me. But I'm not super religious anymore, and we'll talk about that down the road too, but I'm not a hater, okay? I'm not out there saying, oh, religion absolutely sucks. I do hate what religion can do to people's, kind of their how it can modify their core beliefs to falsely make them do things that aren't in their best interest. That's something bothersome, but that's not religion. That's anything. That's any kind of fear-based kind of motivational factor. All right, I'm not calling religion motivational factor, but maybe I am. All right, so let's jump in. How is it possible that somebody who has the support of the evangelical crowd and is such just a malignant narcissist, a horrible human being, and The word narcissism is thrown around with everybody. You have a bad boyfriend, a bad husband, and they were mean to you and they're a narcissist. That's not a narcissist. And a narcissist isn't just mean. And you can have people that are in survival mode that aren't narcissists. And no, I'm not a narcissist. And I've thought about this a lot, and I've dated narcissists, and I don't know if I'm an empath or what, but I'm not a narcissist. And one of the things that narcissists have is they're very insecure. There's almost a bottomless pit of insecurity. And so a lot of times they'll be brash and do brash things and be bold and do things that might make other people uncomfortable because that's their edge. And so chaos is one of the ways they'll use. And so creating chaos for other people is a way that they can feel empowered. And certainly you'll hear Trump say, I did this, only I saved Roe, I did this. So it's all about me. It's all about protecting themselves. But when you get underneath their skin, there's nothing there. And so this person who doesn't really exemplify strength is considered a strong man in their party. When we know what the DSM-5 says about narcissistic personality disorder and how that person can be capable of even interacting with other people and showing compassion at any point, he actually may border on sociopath because I think he's more sadistic than a narcissist might be. Because he does like to see other people in pain. He says things that put people's lives at risk, and he enjoys it. So to me, that's a little bit more sadistic. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just saying what the fuck I observed. By the way, the crazy thing that blows my mind with this is that, as somebody who's dated and interacted and had friends that are crazy and, done all the drugs in the world and seen all kinds of different mental states, this one to me is so obviously bad to say this person should be in charge of anything. Like I said, he's the guy that I know that if I walk up to him, I can say, hey, Donald, let's go party. Let's go get an 8-ball if I'm 26. Let's go get an 8-ball and do some crazy shit. He's the guy that I want to call, but I'm not going to call him to say, hey, let's start a business. Let's do some real estate. I wouldn't call him to ask him real estate questions, even though he's a real estate tycoon, because I guarantee you that he's of the percentage of realtors that real estate agents that doesn't really do realtors any. He's not a realtor, I don't think. He's a developer, so he don't even need a license. But my point is that because he's a real estate mogul doesn't mean that I would even ask him for advice in real estate, just because I don't know where it was coming from. I know that sounds crazy and people would think that that's bullshit, but I would probably choose somebody else. I'd find somebody else that owns a couple skyscrapers if I'm in that level of deal. Let me just take a drink here. So the Bible thing it drives me nuts. So then he literally just says, all right, I'm just going to sell some Bibles. And I will admit that in my social media feed, I didn't see conservatives celebrating that. I didn't see people going, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to buy some Trump Bibles. But I didn't see him saying this is the stupidest fucking thing in the world, and I can't believe this guy's actually selling Easter Bibles to pay his legal bills for fucking a porn star. I didn't see anybody say that. So that's why I think that it's weird, because you don't have to necessarily support it, but you should be like, you know what? I mean, that's my last straw. I mean, grab him in the pussy was bad. The Mexicans rapist thing, the hatred of immigrants, the Muslim ban, the other sides thing, all good. This one I can still take, the abortion, no problem. I mean, this to me sounds like somebody who's in an abusive relationship. And that's why when I think of Trump and I use those words like narcissist, it's like the folks that are in it, if you've ever dealt with a narcissist, it's not easy to get away from a narcissist. They're like sticky molasses. They need to tap you every now and then to get their narcissistic supply. So, I mean, his followers are essentially like the same victims of this narcissism. They just need to see him and need to know that he's validating their beliefs. And every time he says fuck you to the left, or makes up a new name for Joe Biden, he's validating that they're on the right side for some fucked up reason. And it's like it doesn't matter what he stands for at that point. He's all over the place with where he stands. It's just about the fact that it's validating their insecurities. And this is where it's like I can't get away from the abusive relationship analogy. that his followers are just like, look, they don't even know. It's like they're happy. They come out, they have black eyes and stuff. They're like, oh, it's great. He loves me. It's great. And they don't even care. They don't know they're getting black eyes because he's doing it behind the scenes. It's affecting their economics, or he's doing things he's dismantling systems that are going to affect people. So it's just odd. And then to drop the hammer, like just say straight up blasphemy. I'm just going to straight up fucking blaspheme. I'm not even going to be like, oh, just like wink, wink, nod, nod. I'm going to say these Bibles that I'm selling for Easter, they're going to pay my porn star fees. Go for it, guys. Help get me elected as president. So this is what I woke up to 4 years ago when people are like, oh, or whatever, 8 years, however fucking shit, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, when he got elected, when he was about ready to get elected, I remember thinking, sorry, 7 years. What the fuck am I talking about? In the first election, 2020, I remember saying to people that I'm nervous about this happening, and everyone's like, no chance, no chance. And I'm like, I'm watching. I'm like, I don't know, man. It just feels weird. And I was part of the Obama movement. You know, when I say that, I worked in the campaign, and I was like, kind of pulled me out of the Republican side onto the Democrat side. So, and I felt that passion, and I remember seeing that passion in the Obama side. I'm like, there's no way we're going to lose this thing. It's freaking crazy. That's what the MAGA people were feeling in during that time. And so it was driving me crazy that this malignant narcissist is like getting all these followers, including people in my family, my friends, and folks that I thought would be seeing through that. I couldn't stop with the analogy of the emperor's clothes. It's the fucking emperor has no clothes. And it's like, all right, guys, that fable for some reason stands out as the fable that I remember. I think it was third or fourth grade, and we read it. It was public school, and they read it, and I just was amazed. I couldn't understand why they kept on saying that he had clothes on. I remember thinking that. I'm like, why? Like, why? And it just like for years, I'm just like, why did they do that? And like, you know, kind of like chewing on that reason of why could they do that? Like, what was the reason? Because like I had never seen it before. So when the emperor has no clothes, that they're just saying that he has clothes because they want to. And at that, when I read it and I remember that, I just thinking, there's no way someone could do it, and it stuck with me. And then to actually live it and see the emperor with no clothes get elected and watch people go, oh, yeah. Unbelievable. I mean, I was in shock. And so when you watch the old videos of me, as much as I was spitting and raving and crying and screaming about it, that was my mentality. I can't believe that people are falling for this. And if you want proof of people falling for it, look at every single person that works with him. Every single person. He hires somebody, they're fantastic, they leave, they're awful. How does everyone become awful after he hires them? This doesn't even get through to his supporters. And so the idea that the Republican Party are supporting this blasphemy, along with this malignant narcissist race relationship that they have with him, is crazy. They know inside, and that's the weirdest thing. That I'm going to cement that analogy is that, you know, if you're dealing with a narcissist, you know they're fucking with you. You know they're gaslighting you. Sometimes you're like, come on, just fucking tell me. No, the lights aren't on. They're not on. Yeah, they are. They are. You want them to fucking come your way. You know they're not going to. And so what happens is you're fooling yourself. And so you continue that lie, trying to think that you're going to get the carrot eventually. And that's what it looks like with these people. It's like, dude, you keep on getting screwed. Every single person. I mean, the attorney that's defending him went out and said, oh, he's got this bond. He's got $500 million. Boom. He gets it reduced. And of course he doesn't have the money. This is unbelievable. That's a whole nother thing I could go off on about the two-tier justice system that people were talking about with this guy. It is two-tiered, but it's fucking, he's managed to delay everything. And it's crazy because like, if he's so innocent, let's just go to trial and get it over with. But instead, that just cements it to his followers that he's doing the right thing. He's fighting the deep state. It's just bizarro world. So, you know, and then to just kind of put a point in it on Easter, I mean, I wasn't shocked or anything. I'm just like, okay, guys, like I was just hoping to see somebody say, you know, like even like maybe Sean Hannity, you know, this is just something. I'll support the president, whatever, nothing. Just like I probably maybe I need to interview people that bought Bibles. I don't know. So I know I'm going long here. It's actually not long. I used to go like hours, so it's fine. The last thing. So look, I gave you my history. Talked about if this is the first time you're kind of seeing the whole randomness of my fucking soliloquy here. And then I talked a little about Trump, and I can go off and on about Trump. And then I want to talk about realtors real quick. And so I want to state that I don't hate realtors, but I do hate the systems that realtors work in. And the best analogy I can come up with how realtors affect the system is that let's take how you buy a car today, and I say scratch that. And I say in order to buy a car, you have to have a buyer agent because you want representation. And then I say also you have to have, and because I work for the Car Realtor Association, I basically say to the buyers, we want to decouple it so that we have real clean representation. A buyer has a representation and the seller, usually the dealership, but hey, we're new used cars here. And also we want this new model because we need to have, there's so many complexities that happen when you're buying a car. You can't just go out and buy a car. You need representation. And the seller certainly wants representation because what do they know? They're not going to know everything about what they're selling. I mean, it's not like they're a car dealer or anything, but listen, this is the new system. Snapped our fingers. Bam. So my eye's going to go freaky on me. Oh my gosh, my mother-in-law. Oh, sorry, I can't say that. I don't want to HIPAA violate. Let me just say pink eye. I've seen really, really crazy pink eye before in my life. Sorry if I identified. Anyway, I'm hoping I'm not getting it. So in this world where we now have this existing system where you have to have a buyer and a seller buy your car, you're like, dude, this is weird. It's not the same. This is the system. We can talk about the history of how the system got. And by the way, check out my page. I post an article written by a realtor that talks about the history of NAR and the history of how realtors came about and some of the reasons why they exist. But in this new car analogy, we have a buyer that you go buy a car. You can't just go to a lot. You got to call this buyer to go buy the lot. You got to call your buyer agent, and they're going to do that. And then they end up calling the agent for the car, and they say, hey, look, we want to put a deal in. And then they call you back, and they're like, hey, what do you want to put in? You're like, well, we want to go see it. Okay, well, let's go see it. All right, well, I got to find out when he has the car. The agent's got to be there. Let us in the car. We can't just go get it. So so basically your buyer agent goes and communicates and tries to schedule that. And so he wants to schedule a meeting where it's you, your buyer agent, and the seller. And so you got three people that you got to coordinate. Major network issue here, if you're talking about math and network theory, is that it's 2 points. You have one line between them. Three people, you have a couple different ways you do it. And you have, in order to keep that communication in that triangle, you have to keep it flowing. With two people, it's just back and forth. Okay, so the more people you have, the more complicated a transaction is. This is math. This is computer science. We have the Mythical Man Month where we talk about if you have a project going, adding people doesn't fucking make it go faster because you have to communicate things to that person. You have to ramp them up. All kinds of reasons. But so again, we're living in our fake analogy where we have this extra cruft where we have to have representation. And the argument from the NAR, the NCAR, I don't want to say Nick Carr. Wow. The car lobby is that it's so complicated. They need to have these two folks in here. And one of the things is you can negotiate your commission all the time. That's not a problem. The only problem is that it's the buyer agent who works for this association and the seller who also is incentivized. They both want the highest price of this transaction because they're both getting paid on the percentage and the volume of this car, whatever the value is. So think about that. Your buyer is representing you, but their incentive, they actually get paid if you pay more for the house. So they make more. Realtors gonna be like, that's the stupidest argument, but we don't care. If you don't care, how comes if you look at 98% of the MLS listings, they're 5 to 6%? Really doesn't smell negotiable. But anyway, so we're in this car world, and so we already have a problem where we got to just see the car, and we've got to coordinate a meeting. And so now, not only that, but then you got to get a contract, and then you also need to make sure the car's inspected, and you got to get an appraisal, and obviously you got to drive the car, so you got to make sure you do all that stuff too. And so you have to have those people involved as well. because because of how you have constructed this organization, you are no longer allowed to be linked to the financial side of it. And so you have to actually have a financial person on top of the seller, as well as an appraiser, someone separate from you since they're not tied to the transaction, and a separate inspector in order to get this thing, in order to sell this. So you can see now, rather than just trusting the dealer to know what's in the car, we now have to bring in other parties. I'm not saying we don't need appraisers in real mortgage or in real estate. What I'm saying is, I've just showed you how I can easily complicate the car business by adding 2 people to the transaction and not doing a damn thing different. Literally just adding a whole bunch of cruft, just adding 2 people, coordinating meetings, having communication, making sure everyone's on the same page, when you could just have me go to the dealership and direct. And that's what we know. People's minds are blown thinking about that when it comes out. What do you mean you just go to the seller and they sell the house? Well, what about a world where it's already fucking appraised, it's already inspected, and they have a full report on all the work that needs done on the house? You get a report, you know it, the lender's going to know it, the lender's going to validate it. This guy's like, I want this house, it'll cover my mortgage, can you give me this? Wait, what about the agents? Well, how did you find the house? I don't know, the fucking internet? I mean, so look, I'm getting mad, but like the point is that the benefit of a realtor, realtors are beneficial, and they're not needed. But the reason they're needed is because we created a system that needs them. And I'm arguing not to destroy realtors' personal lives, but that the system's flawed. That right now the extraction comes from the seller. And that is what the settlement also said, that sellers are kind of rolling the cost of the buyer in, so the buyers don't have to bring money to the table, and then the buyers are financing that closing the fee to the agent into their mortgage over 30 years. So when you're buying a house and you pay your agent that 3%, you're rolling that into your mortgage. If you came to the closing with 0 out of pocket, maybe you got 6% sales, or you get maybe something, that realtor got paid still. No matter what happened prior to this settlement, that realtor got paid. It's documented in the MLS. You're going to see realtors say, oh, it's negotiable. No, based on the data, it was never negotiable. And if you've ever bought a house and you tried to negotiate the commission, you know it wasn't negotiable. So let's just keep that. Look, realtors, this is the truth. I know right now you're feeling like, oh, everyone thinks we're shady. I don't think you're shady. I think the systems that built realtors is shady. I don't like it. I think there's a system where people can buy a house and be knowledgeable on buying a property, and certainly use an attorney if they have contract issues. I'm not even saying that realtors don't need to be involved as experts in the transaction. I'm just arguing that with technology and everything else, it doesn't seem like today's realtor does the same thing that a realtor did maybe in the 1850s, where you had to come out with a book or a catalog and you had to have this old thing where the MLS is online. You can post your house on Facebook and it will sell. The other thing that is really frustrating for realtors to admit is that if we remove realtors, people are going to still buy houses. Okay? Because people need to live in a house. So the idea that if we got rid of realtors, all of a sudden people would stop buying houses is insane. You can actually exist in a world where if you don't have a mechanism to buy it, people will find a way and other things will come into play. Maybe you'll have consultants. Maybe you'll have some bank that facilitates it. Because when it comes down to it, the transaction's not that complicated once it gets done. Maybe if you're doing a 1031 exchange, or you're doing some crazy stuff and you're moving some mortgages around, or you got some crazy deal. And by the way, I was the king of crazy deals. I did crazy deals. That was my thing. I did crazy deals. So when people are like, oh, you don't know real estate. Dude, I did the stuff. All the tough deals were the deals that came to me. So the deals that people couldn't get done, they were brought to me, and I ran a subprime department that handled out-of-the-box loans. So the idea that like I wasn't doing just transactions, I was doing tough transactions every fucking one. So I take issue when people say I don't know anything about real estate, when quite frankly, I was in the middle of it and I had to navigate some of the toughest transactions that people had, legendary transactions that were difficult. So again, that's the only reason I say that, because I want to check my ego, is that I'm not speaking about this as if I'm just saying, anti-realtors. I'm saying it because I was in the business. I'm saying it because I understand how the transaction works. I'm saying it because I also understand the spin that's happening. And I also understand the threat that it has when you're exposed. When I was in mortgages, I was also exposed. Subprime mortgages got a bad name. I had to walk around. People were like, oh, you're a subprime guy. I wasn't that bad subprime guy. I didn't falsify documents. I wasn't doing that. I wasn't stretching the truth to get loans done. I was doing it by the book. And sometimes I lost deals because other people wouldn't do it by the book. So the point that the idea that I was like some hustler doing things that were illegal or something like that was hard for me to handle. And it felt like everyone's like, oh, you're a subprime guy. So I had to deal with that. Oh, not only that, there was a big push towards getting down the fees of a mortgage. So another effort at transparency for the consumer. I hated it. I didn't like it. It changed the business. I actually left not prior to that change because I didn't like realtors. And again, it just because of my experience of working with realtors that weren't high quality. Again, there's some high quality realtors. So everyone out there is just fucking shitting themselves. They're like, oh, you're hating on realtors. There's a lot of good realtors out there. Okay. It's also a job that's easy to get into. What does that mean? It means that you take a test, you can study for the test, you can get it. There's not a lot of barrier to entry besides money and studying. And that's a good thing. Doesn't mean that you're stupid if you're a realtor. It just means that the test is accessible and people can work and get it. You don't have to go to college. You can become a realtor. That also means that you're going to have a lot of people come in the industry that are going to kind of damper the expertise level of it. If you don't have some kind of metric that says, hey, you have to have this bar experience, you're going to have new people coming in and new people that don't care, and they're going to suck. So realtors are just going to deal with any business that you're in. Even my business is software. There's a lot of software development companies that suck ass, and people that pay crazy amounts of money. They get pissed at me when I say what my prices are, but I'm like, I don't fuck around. So I charge double what everyone else does because you're going to do it once with me. You're going to do it 10 times with them. So there's a way to sell your value, of course, and I think there's some realtors out there that are going to be able to continue to sell their value. Not saying every transaction is just cookie cutter either, but don't lie to yourself and suggest that being a realtor is a superpower and that all of a sudden the market's going to come to a halt because realtors had their commission structure changed. It's going to be confusing. It's going to be weird. People are not going to be used to it, but it existed before this. And again, as I said during COVID, realtors are not essential services. They were arguing that. So again, I'm sitting here listening to myself and it sounds like I'm hating on realtors, but let's go into the history. So I posted an article on Smash the Party. I'll probably get into it a little bit deeper down the road with some people and talk about it. But NAR openly admits the racist history that they kind of promoted throughout their entire history. They talk about it on their site. They talk about the fact that at one point NAR was they allowed local boards to exclude members based on race and religion and everything else. They were openly racist. Now, here's why I have a problem with NAR, because that system was created under the pretense of racism. When you have a system that was created under the pretense of racism, then I don't see how it can be perfected unless you kind of remove that pretense of how it was created. And so that's why I have a problem with realtors, ultimately, because there was a lot of things that came from realtors that actually created bad systems. For instance, the way that we fund public schools is fucked up. Why the fuck? Because this person's poor, do they get a shitty education? It's fucking weird. They live in a shitty neighborhood. Now they got to get a shitty. I mean, it's just like, so you're going to make the shitty people shittier. I mean, I'm not saying they're shitty, but the people that can't afford whatever don't have this and they live in a poor neighborhood. Now all of a sudden they're funded by no tax dollars because they all got poor houses. And so of course everything's just, the community can't even rise because there's no, absolutely not. This kid in America lives in this corner of the country, gets an A+ education. It doesn't matter if they live in the boondocks or across the tracks. That system can be traced to lobbying and things done by NAR, by realtors. This is a history that you may not like or know, but it's true. NAR openly states on their website that they were against the Fair Housing Act. They stood against it wrongly. They didn't believe it was fair to offer fair housing to other people. So again, realtors were gatekeepers. There's something called redlining, which was done. It was a term that was done. There's something called Thompson. There's a Thompson, I think it's called Thompson Properties, where it has to do with how it was created to keep out black folks. That still exists today. The article that I posted, by the way, it was brought about because realtors changed. They wanted to change the language to not say master bedroom anymore, because that has connotations of kind of a racial past. And the reason is because, again, realtors, not to their fault, they use flowery language to sell things. So master bedroom, I honestly thought it was like the main room. But if you look at the history of where that word come from, does that mean that everyone's thinking it when they use it? No. But now you have this racist trope that's injected, that's mainstream, and people are like, oh no, just leave it. So NAR did the right thing and said, look, we're not going to say master bedroom, we're going to say main. People got mad, they're like, just leave it. I understand. You got to understand that when these systems are created with these bad intentions and then we're working in them, no matter how fucking good we think it is for everybody, we need to take a look at that system and understand what the impact of it was for today, and why a system built on racism is still existing, or we have this gatekeeping of a huge way to earn wealth in the country. By the way, let's talk about generational wealth and how that was stifled for certain demographics in this country and how realtors were part of that. That doesn't mean if you're a realtor today, you're a bad person. I'm saying this is the history. Just like we talk about the things that people ran slaves, doesn't mean because you're white, doesn't mean you're a slave over this whole fucking thing that I'm talking about you specifically. No, this is a lesson to understand why I have a problem, why I speak out against realtors, and I don't like the model. I don't like the model where people do what I think could be done with technology, and they're extracting that much out of the value of somebody's house. And this happens over and over. It's $1 billion. This is the thing that realtors are freaking out about. It's going to hit your compensation. I don't like that, but I also didn't like the fact that all the people that were, making bullwhips had to fucking find a new job either. But guess what? We're not doing bullwhips anymore. There is a place for realtors in this market. It's not a place for every single realtor. There's going to be some fall off. You may want to check yourself if you're not doing it, because it's going to be a different world for how you are compensated, which is going to be a good thing for America. There's no reason. I mean, I posted a video about this. These guys doing this $1 million listing in California. You list a house, and $1 million house or whatever, and you get $300,000 for it, or some bullshit like that. I mean, what is it? Not 300,000? What was it? I think it was like, 300,000 for a listing. Is it 3%, 7%, whatever. So we're talking about like massive amounts of money. 300,000 if you're doing a $1 million listing. $30,000 for on both sides. So you're talking not 300,000. It's 30, 60 for $1 million. It's 1%, 3%. My math's fucking shady right now. Sorry about that. The bottom realtors are going to be like, you couldn't even do the math. All right, my brain's a little fried here, but the point is 3% of 100,000 is 3,000. So 3% of $1 million is 30,000. 300,000. 30,000. That's right. Bottom line, it's a lot of fucking money, okay? And I don't think it's worth it for that amount. I think it's actually more than that. Ugh, my brain's fried. This will be my last one. So this is why how I'm not spatial. As soon as my brain switches into math mode, where I got to do math, and I'm in verbal mode, I'm like just saying things. So believe it or not, I'm a math person sometimes, but not now. So fucking realtors come at me for my math, but the bottom line is there is technology today that can replace some of the functions, and that doesn't mean that every function doesn't, or every transaction doesn't need a realtor. I think what we'd like to see now is that the commissions are really negotiable. We maybe do an a la carte system, because if somebody like myself doesn't necessarily need to pay all, and I can actually educate the seller and say, look, you want to sell your house on your own? Let's work out a deal. Then they don't have to get in the real. I can still have access to the MLS. We can do that transaction. They can make informed decision, because again, we're kind of assuming that there's no way that a seller could get the expertise they need to sell their house. And I don't agree with that. Just like I don't agree with the car analogy where, you can't just go buy a car and you need a buyer agent. I'm saying that maybe we need to undercomplicate things, or decomplicate things, if we will, and find out why there's so much complexity in real estate. And let's get further those. We have the technology now to do things that are amazing, that can literally allow you to go see a house on your own, check the house. You can have an interactive conversation with somebody while you're there. You can have experts like plumbing experts, electric experts, everybody. You can have a whole bevy of experts at your fingertips as you're walking through the house. let alone asking a realtor. So why would I need a realtor when I can have literally a master plumber, master electrician, a master contractor, everybody on the hook right as I'm walking through the house with their expertise, advising me on everything as I'm filming it, walking through with my, my little VR glasses or whatever it is, whatever the world is at that point. So I am pro allowing technology to take over, and also based on the history of where my understanding of realtors, I see them being a remnant of systems that weren't built with right intentions. And now we're dealing with the cruft and the extraction of wealth, not only just to certain demographics, but across America. Because this system was in place, I'd like to see that system be improved. And if we can keep people employed in that business without removing, and still allow them to make a living in that business without extracting the generational wealth from America, I'm okay with it. And you got to stop with the bullshit, because when you post on there about how I'm bullshit and you're telling me I'm lying, that thing is like, people actually message me, inbox me, and they're like, I won't use that realtor. So I'm not kidding. Like, don't just go on my page if you're a realtor and say fucking dumb shit. Just be quiet, or maybe I won't post your stuff out there. I'm not going to post your mean opinion that you send to my inbox out there. But like, if you're going to post a comment, just be aware of your reputation, because people literally think about that. Remember, I'm buying my second house. My first house, I felt like I did a lot of research, and now this realtor gets $9,000 for doing nothing. And I'm kind of like, what the hell? I mean, I feel like he did nothing. Of course, he or she did a lot in their minds. Now I go to my second house. I'm using this realtor again. That realtor's like, oh, no, I got this. Wait, I found the house. I understand this. I understand that. I already understand. I did the comps. I did all this stuff. And then that doesn't warrant that same amount. So that is the big change. You're going to see people have to explain the value, and it's not just going to be rolling the transaction. Now, it's also going to require buyers to come to the table with money if they're going to pay their agent. So if you want to buy a house and you want a buyer agent, you're going to have to pay for them out of your pocket. So what does that mean? Buyer agents are going to have to lower their prices. Sellers are going to have more money in their pocket because they're not going to have to pay those commissions out. Initially, they can still put that value back into their house. That's why it's coming from the seller, by the way. It's coming because that stuff's rolled into the mortgage. It's rolled out. It's actually taken out of the appraised value of the house. The seller gets the proceeds, but it's boosting the value of the house to cover those commissions. And in many cases, this isn't bullshit, guys. This is what happens. It's a wild, wild west of how to get a transaction done, but there's a lot of tricks in the business that you can do to get a transaction done. One I've never seen used in all my years is I've never seen a realtor lower their commission. Okay? I've never seen a realtor lower their commission on a transaction. Hundreds of transactions I've done. Never once. They always come to me and ask me, can you lower your points? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can we get that waived? Can we do this? So the next rebuttal that I have is everyone's going to say, well, everything's always negotiable. This settlement's not going to change anything. We still get our value. Bullshit. Stop bullshitting. Stop saying that. That's the kind of stuff that I'll stand on. I'm like, you're lying to your folks. And people can see the lie because they'll go to the transaction. It's like, they'll feel greasy giving you that money. You're going to literally charge them. And I mean, I get it. I understand how you're making your living. It's not you that I'm mad at. It's just mad that we have the system in place and it has to be dismantled. This settlement was the first effort to dismantle it. It's something I've always believed in. When I was in the business, I thought realtors were overpaid, and not because I didn't see them working hard. It's just because I saw people working hard when I was at UPS. I saw people working hard when I was installing floors, and I never saw people hurting their knees or doing realtors. I saw them skiing in the winter and doing these things, and then, having a fantastic life. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the behest of this guy scrapping together all their funds and then they're paying that $9,000 to an agent, I thought that was wrong. I didn't like it. You can say, well, you were in subprime mortgage. Absolutely. But I will say that I did my work, earned every penny. If you don't know what a loan is in subprime, then you absolutely are talking out your ass if you think that it's not some of the hardest transactions and financial transactions to do, besides like acquiring a company and shit. I'm serious. Straight up. They're fucking hard. You got bad credit. You got all kinds of funkies, not just bad credit. It's funky situations that require somebody that has some financial expertise and understanding the transaction. So that's the other thing that's interesting about the realtor settlement that's no one's talking about is there's actually back in the day, there was a decoupling from realtors having anything to do with the financial side. And this was like a protector. But in actuality, it causes more problems because you now have a realtor that can't really talk to you about the finance side. You have to have a mortgage. So because realtors have this issue, you actually have to talk to two people when you're trying to get approved. You have to talk to your loan agent, your loan officer, and then you also have to provide that letter to your agent. And so your agent can provide that letter to whoever they're going to show them that you're pre-approved. All kinds of, look, you need a pre-approval letter, but I'm saying, like, you see how we added two people to the transaction. And because of them, we now have these weird rules in place that govern how we have to do the transaction. So I said a lot. I went long tonight. It's almost an hour. I knew I could do it. Shows you I can do it. Even though I lost my wits a little bit when I was trying to do some fucking math, I still got it. For some reason, my nose runs when I do this too, which is weird. I gotta do like a Coke snort. No, I didn't do Coke. So I want to just rehash this real quick, and I'm going to wrap. So it's first night. I'm happy I did an hour. Thanks for watching. If you don't watch, it's cool too. You don't have to share it. You don't have to fucking comment. I don't need shit. I'm practicing. I love that I'm back on. I feel good. And I have ideas now that I'm kind of getting the wheels greased. But let me just put this point on my last point. And that is, I do not hate realtors. I hate the system that realtors exist in. I don't like what it's done for the American family. I don't like what it's done for generational wealth. And I don't like what it's done to our education system by creating a system where we're funding things based on property values. And I'm putting a little weight on realtor and NAR for having a hand in that. And I think that if we can dismantle that system, we can have more equality. So I'm not saying you're fucking destroying the world by being a realtor either. I know I have realtor friends. I probably hate me now, but I don't hate you. I know you're going to call me. I know you call me and you text me and you say stuff and then you get mad and then you talk shit on me. I'm fine. I am totally fine with saying the truth, and I'm not saying it to hate you. But consumers need to understand that this is an opportunity for them to save money and get the transaction lowered, the lower costs, actually have more transparency in the transaction, force you to negotiate commissions, force you to earn your commissions. And this is not going to be a bad thing. People are still going to want to buy a house. People are going to prefer buying a house, even if realtors didn't exist, just because no one wants to be homeless. I promise you. I promise you. I will tell you the last horrible story is that this is often the philosophy of Coke dealers too. They think they're special because they're like, I'm fucking selling Coke. Look, Coke sells itself. Okay, if you have really good cocaine, you don't need to say anything. You can buy as much cocaine. If it's pure Peruvian flake, you can buy pounds and pounds of it, and it will sell. You don't even need to call anybody. Just literally, I swear to God, I don't know anything about it. I'm just saying it sells itself. That's what the Coke dealers say, right? So in that regard, a house is like way more important than Coke. A house is something that I have to live in and I have to have my family in. So the idea that all of a sudden, because we don't have two people in the transaction, or we have to change the transaction a little bit, people are going to stop buying houses. Bullshit. You're not that fucking special. That's what I'd say to the Coke dealer. You're not that special. Your drug sells itself. Now, this guy who doesn't cut it, his is better than that guy who cuts it. Now think about that. If you're really a realtor that's worth your salt and you think you're worth it, then go out there and do this shit pure. Do it raw. Tell them like it is. Make it good. Make it so they can't get enough of it. And then you're going to be fine. But if you're going to cut bullshit and spit the industry standard for what's going on, you're going to look like every other realtor. And then you're going to fall into that pattern of looking like a fraud. So this is a time for realtors to step up. You can show your value. And you can actually beat my argument by saying, hey, Nate, listen, we are totally on board with the negotiation. We agree with you that right now consumers, are paying too much for houses and our commission. We're willing to come meet you halfway. I know that's hard to say when your finances are relying on it, but you have to be realistic with where the future is. The future is not going to be with people getting in between transactions. It's to digital transact. Look at Amazon. It's digital. Why do we have so many people involved in a house purchase when that's like the one unit of wealth that you can pass on? We did it with paper and pencil years ago. And now we have digital ways to track things and look at deeds. So I think that it's time for realtors to just be awakened to the technology that's out there. Understand It's not the end of realtors. Unfortunately, because my unfortunate is that the system was built on racial pretense and it causes other problems, which is why I'm going to go further. I'm not going to say I want realtors dismantled. I don't hate them. I just want a system where it's not working the same way and we're not funding things the same way. And that means that we have to dismantle the existing system. So look, you're going to extract hate from that. That's fine. I don't hate you. Personally, I don't hate you. I share a lot of shit with realtors, and I also support a lot of realtors. I really do want people to succeed, and I'm not trying to hate on folks. But, when you're looking at a system, maybe you have to be a little bit look past some of the immediate kind of issue fallout and look at the long term. And long term, I'm willing to take some L's with some people's feelings to see a whole new generation of technology come out that allows people to purchase houses in real time, get approved in real time, do all kinds of things to get us modern. I mean, this whole 3-day wait for bullshit, there's so many legacy laws in place that prevent me just walking to a house and clicking a button. It's mine. And that's what I want to see. So realtors may exist in that world. And I do not think that realtors are racist. I don't think that if you're a realtor, you're racist. NAR on their website talks about their racist past and their racist history. And I think that's the appropriate tack. You want to talk about it. This idea that you don't talk about your history suddenly makes it not exist is stupid. So good job, NAR. I know realtors aren't really fond of you right now either, but I would say that NAR has done a good job at least trying to address those things, especially coming from the history they have. So look, I talked about realtors. You now have a little bit understanding of my context and where I'm coming from. I know I didn't look at the camera very well today because I have the other camera up here and I'm like, keep on looking at that. A bunch of shit that I did wrong, a bunch of shit that I've been off at. I'll probably have better views. There's a bunch of places I can do the camera from. I didn't know which way to go, especially with my technical difficulties, but I hope you enjoyed it. Look, the website is down right now, so smashtheparty.com is no longer under my purview. That's a whole fucking thing. I'm working on it. I'm literally working on it with ICANN and Amazon. So, but I'm going to continue to push out content to the platforms, and I'm thinking about just starting a Substack or something just to put my, I do like to write when I get into this and just talk about some of the things, so it gives me more content to talk about. So thanks for stepping up. Thanks for listening. If anybody watched this, fantastic. You can say hello. You don't necessarily need to let me know that you watched it because I'll probably cringe thinking somebody actually watched me talk today. But I just want to say I'm back. And like I said, I'm scheduled every night, Monday through Thursday, 10:30. We're back at the same schedule. Nightcap's back on. We're going to get loud. We're going to scream. But we're going to get serious. We're going to try to change some minds. And we're not only going to be talking about politics, by the way. So for those folks that are still on, listening, it's not only about politics. I want to talk about some other issues, some fun issues. I mean, politics is fun too. It's just people just are stupid. And so we're going to try to educate people. Ego, check my ego. Ego, stego. All right. I think that's it. Look, this was my art. I'm happy that I got my first painting up. I threw it onto the canvas. And one thing I don't do is I usually don't watch my videos too explicitly in the beginning. So I'll probably just let this video simmer, not watch it. Maybe I should watch it. Check my ego. I should watch it. Anyway, thanks for listening. By the way, I'm operating out of the Candy Factory. If I didn't say that before, this is where I have my office. They have a full studio. It's awesome. I love it. I've been here a year and something and said I was going to join this place to do my podcast and live stream. And here I am. Podcast, live stream, YouTube, all of it's coming. One thing at a time, one baby step at a time. Thanks for listening, everybody. Let's see if we can do a transition. No sound, but hey.